Axiata Group and Telenor Asia are in advanced talks to merge the Malaysian telco operations of Celcom-Axiata and Digi.com. The merged company will be named Celcom-Digi, in which Axiata and Telenor will each own about 33.1%. Malaysian institutional funds will own around 17.9%. This confirms a report by The Edge this morning. As part of the merger transaction, Axiata will receive newly issued shares in Digi.com, representing a 33.1% post-transaction shareholding and cash equalization amount of around 2 billion ringgit, of which 1.7 billion ringgit will come from Digi.com as new debt, while the balance of 300 million ringgit will come from Telenor. The merged entity, which will continue to be listed on Bursa, will have a pro forma revenue of about 12.4 billion ringgit, pre-synergy EBITDA of some 5.7 billion ringgit, and a subscriber base of about 19 million customers. If the plan goes through, Datuk Muhammad Izzaddin Idris will chair CelcomDigi, Jorgen C. Arens Rostrup will be vice chairman, Muhammad Idham Nawawi will be CEO, and Alban Murty will be deputy CEO. Axiata and Telenor pledged not to carry out any forced retrenchments and said the Celcom and Digi brands will continue to operate as is post-merger. Both parties will work towards finalizing a deal by the second quarter of 2021, though they said there is no certainty that these talks will result in any agreement. Malaysia will deliberate on whether to use AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine on the heels of findings from Europe's drug regulator that showed a possible link between the jab and blood clotting. MOSTI Minister Khairi Jamaluddin is in charge of coordinating the National Immunisation Programme. He tweeted that the COVID-19 Vaccine Supply Access Guarantee Special Committee will deliberate on the matter and decide whether to proceed with the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Safety is paramount, he said in his tweet today. Malaysia has secured 12.8 million doses from AstraZeneca, with the first delivery scheduled to arrive next month. Yesterday, the European Medicines Agency said there is a possibility of very rare cases of blood clots combined with low levels of blood platelets occurring within 2 weeks of vaccination. So far, it said most of the cases reported have occurred in women under 60 years of age within 14 days of receiving a jab, but could not confirm the specific risk factors. However, it said the benefits of the vaccine overall still outweigh the risks of side effects. Malaysia's largest fund manager, PNB, aims to gradually expand its diversification efforts into new investments over the longer term. Its president and group CEO, Ahmad Zulkarnain On, said the potential sectors include renewable energy and 5G technology, logistics and data centers. This while PNB continues with buyouts, secondaries and possibly the domestic consumer discretionary sector under the private equity portfolio. He was speaking at PNB's annual report briefing today. In 2020, the fund manager saw net income rise 2.8% to 11 billion ringgit as gains from its international portfolio more than offset the weaker performance on the domestic front. Gross income retreated by 4% to 14.5 billion ringgit, while total distribution fell 15.9% to 11.1 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, assets under management rose 3.4% to 322.6 billion ringgit. The group increased its international portfolio to 12% of its total portfolio from 8.5% in 2019. The diversification helped the fund more than double its international public equity income to 3.7 billion ringgit. That's 25.5% of gross income registered by PNB. LBS Bina Group's unit has inked a deal with the Malacca government to reclaim and develop land spanning 1,200 acres in Tanjung Bras. Under the agreement, its subsidiary Leap Tech Engineering will develop the land into an industry hub with port facilities. This is part of the Malacca Waterfront Economic Zone, which spans 25,000 acres along Malacca's coastline. The group added that the industrial hub will also include logistic and warehouse, manufacturing, LNG, port-related businesses and other related sectors. Under the agreement, the LBS Bina unit will pay the Malacca government 94.86 million ringgit. The deal will be financed through internally generated funds and/or bank borrowings. Leap Tech will carry out the reclamation work within 5 years upon being granted approval to do so. Once the land has been reclaimed, Leap Tech will be entitled to 4/5 of the reclaimed land, with the Malacca government entitled to the remaining 1/5. The firm shall complete the project's development within 15 years from the last phase of the reclamation work. Malaysia's jobless rate inched lower to 4.8% in February from 4.9% a month earlier, Bernama reports, citing data from the Department of Statistics. The number of unemployed persons declined by 5,000 or 0.6% to 777,500 from 782,500 in January. Quoting Chief Statistician Datuk Sri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin, Bernama said the number of jobless people who were actively looking for work was reduced by 9,800 to 647,400 in February, from 657,200 in January. Those who were unemployed for less than 3 months accounted for 50.6% of the actively unemployed, while those who've been jobless for over a year made up 11.3% of the people still seeking employment. Meanwhile, the number of employed persons rose 33,300 to 15.27 million in February. That's an upward trend for 3 consecutive months. However, the numbers were still down for certain sectors, such as the tourism-related industry, agriculture, as well as mining and quarrying. The labour force increased marginally by 0.2% month-on-month to 16.05 million persons in February, while the labour force participation rate remained at 68.5%. The employment-to-population ratio, which indicates the ability of an economy to create employment, remained stagnant at 65.2% during the month.